So thanks everyone, and welcome to a special edition of May I Ask a Question? My name is Jen Weber. I'm an engineer at CardStack, and I'm here with Preston.
Hello, I work at CrowdStrike.
And today we're going to answer at least one Stack Overflow question. We're doing some practice work for Ember Camp, where we'll be doing a special live edition of May I Ask a Question in front of the audience. And so we're going to do a little bit of practice here and kind of work out some of the aspects of how we might present this when we're actually in person as well. All right, so we've taken a look at the questions that are available, and this one especially jumped out to both of us. This question asker says, is there any way to run an Ember acceptance test case in slow mode? Normally you want your tests to run fast. Preston, you've done some work, I think, on like test or like app optimization and things in the past, right?
Yeah, just doing things like getting rid of animations, getting rid of like even CSS animations, any sort of delays on like toast messages, just getting rid of any delay that would slow down an acceptance test.
Right. And I've given a lot of thought myself to like, okay, when do I write an acceptance test? When do I write a unit test? Because most of the time I want my test to run very quickly. I want to shorten the amount of time that it's like using up my one instance on my CI servers. But in this case, this user has an interesting scenario. So what they want to do is when they visit the test route, and filter by acceptance, the tests are running too fast for them. They actually kind of want this test to play out in slow motion, so that they can actually see what's going on in the UI, see what might be going wrong, and probably debug it is my guess. So I think what we'll do first is we'll take a look. We'll just set up like a really simple UI, and try to figure out how we might approach this if we were going to try to actually slow down a test and see it play out on a different time scale than what is fastest and what we usually want to be doing. So the general approach for me to ask a question is we recreate the problem scenario, walk through a couple different ways of solving it. In this case, we're going to talk a little bit about how someone might use debugger and pauseTest to solve this in most use cases. And then we'll see if we can actually get something that does exactly what they're asking for as well. All right. I've got my Ember app up here. This is a Ember 3.10 app because that just so happens to be the version of the Ember CLI that I have installed right now. I think what I will do is let's make a component that we'll put on the application.hbs, put it on the main application route. And on that component, I need something that will have two steps to it. So like maybe a button that gets clicked and then another button that gets clicked. And each time you click one of those buttons, something gets revealed. I don't know. And that way we can actually see are the things that we're trying to do to slow the test down actually working. We can watch that play out in the browser. So I'm going to do Ember generate components. We'll call it interactive button. All right. And what that's going to do is generate two new files, a template, and our JavaScript file where we'll be doing most of our work. So let's go ahead and... Oh, good. Thank you very much. So we've got the interactive button there. And then over here in our handlebars, I think what I will do is button. Preston, what's your favorite format for writing actions at the moment? There's like 4 different ways.
Yeah, the on modifier, which is
I
in
don't remember
that's
how to
in
do it.
311.
Oh no.
Actually.
Okay, then I'm just gonna do regular.
Okay.
If you want to type out below though, like what that would look like if we were in a 311 app, that might be kind of cool to show. So the latest versions of Ember, particularly 310 and 311, introduced a whole bunch of nice new features. I would say it was probably one of the most like new features rich releases in quite some time. And the on modifier is one of them. All right, so I'm going to do plain old normal actions. I'm going to call my action click here. Oh no, we're both typing at the same time. Sometimes it gets a little weird.
Oh. Interesting.
This is if
that
anyone
is right
isn't
in the tag.
If anyone isn't familiar, this is VS Code Live Share, which I've been using a lot at work lately. Since I work mostly remote, I go and I visit people in person about once a month, but the rest of the time, I do a lot of my pairing remotely. I'd say I probably spend like, 3 days a week, at least half the day on some sort of video call or like trying to write code together with somebody else, and it's pretty cool. All right, so I've got a button that says click here, and I'm gonna say, we'll put something that ought to show up. Let's see, this dot some message. So I'll start with something like that. Okay, and then let's go ahead and write the click here action handler. Another interesting thing worth mentioning, if you want to talk about this for a little bit, Preston, is like how right now we're looking at the general like old school Ember objects, but native class support is something that's kind of new to Ember. I think you've converted some of your own apps to use that, right?
Oh yeah. It's a lot of fun because it's pretty much native JavaScript, which is super cool. You kind of just make a class like so, and you get to use this fancy new decorator, and writing the exact same code as is in the classic style would look like this. And native classes have kind of been available since, I think it was 3.6, but they're just not documented. But this is one of the more exciting things coming in Octane.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very happy about this.
Cool.
Yeah, no more silly actions hash. It's all just like the Ember object model has melted away. We can use JavaScript in its pure form.
Nice. All right. I think my VS Code isn't keeping up with the call and streaming together, though, unfortunately. Look at my screen. I'm behind you, huh? Let me stop my secondary backup recording. There it goes.
Oh, yeah, that's going much faster than I was actually typing.
Wow. Okay. Oh no, but then it went away.
Yeah,
I'm gonna hit Control-Z so we can actually see it again. So I was, I'm asking a lot of my little laptop right now, and it is currently trying to run other recording software. So I stopped it, and we're just gonna wing it. Okay. All right. So yeah, that's the native class and syntax, and that's something that is going to become the default in the future for Ember as well. So anyway, we've created an action, that's going to set a value of something called some message to the button was clicked. At this point, although it's teeny tiny little thing, I'm going to Ember serve, going to make sure that works. And then I'm also going to be looking over here in the other terminal. We're going to generate an acceptance test. I can't silence that. Hang on.
You can't quit it.
No, I can't.
Oh,
There.
that's funny.
All right, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to generate acceptance. I think it's acceptance test.
Yeah.
And we're going to call it slowdown. So there's 3 different types of tests in Ember. What their names are will vary by like who you're talking to and which resource you're looking at. But to me, I think of them as acceptance tests, integration tests, and unit tests. An acceptance test, or I think the other term for it is application test, actually boots up your app and like shows it in the browser, and you can do things like mimic user interactions like clicking and things like that. Then integration tests, or I think rendering tests is the other name.
Yep.
Those are if you want to see like what exactly a component's output looks like if you've changed different properties, you know, like for example, having show menu set to true or false and things like that. And then the last one is unit test, which is just like if I call this JavaScript function and I give it this input, is it going to return the value that I expect? So we're going to do an acceptance test, and let me see how my Ember app is booting up. I'm going to pull that up here in the browser. We'll see if my button's there and if I made any mistakes. All right, cool.
Hey.
So I can click on it. The button was clicked.
Cool.
Great. So we've got one button click. We'll go back and add the second button click there later, maybe. I want to get on to at least getting to the acceptance test. So let's have a look here. So we're going to visit the index URL. Let's say we're going to say test. Clicking the button reveals text. Okay. And we're not going to use this here. So I'm going to look to see which helpers are available to me. I always look this up every time. So we're going to look for...
I do too.
Actually, one of the easiest places to get to them, there's a package that's separate from the Ember.js code base. So you actually have to look for them in a different place than the API docs, but there is a link right here, Ember test helpers, that will bring you to those API docs.
I didn't know that. That's super convenient.
Yeah. All right, so we can read here about the click event. I want to know where to import it from. I guess we just import from Ember test helpers. I don't even know.
Yeah. There we go.
Great. It does look like you can type extraordinarily fast. Like I can hear you typing quickly, but and then we want something to, we're going to need some sort of like selector here. So I'm going to say class equals, you know, we're going to call it test button. All right.
Yeah.
And then likewise, I want to wrap this in something that I can select in my tests. I really like to use Ember test. I think it's called Ember test selectors, Ember test selector helpers. It gives you a way to add some tags and things to elements that get stripped out. Yeah, like that. that get stripped out on when you're in a production app. So
yeah, and I think it's just like a broccoli or Babel transform too, so it's like not even that magical, which is super cool.
It's really nice. It helps keep your markup clean for when you're in a deployment environment. All right, so we're gonna just go ahead and use a regular some message. Okay, so that gives us something to select. So if we go back to our slowdown test, we're gonna do we await click? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because it could cause any number of side effects. So.
And then we're gonna do. We want to find the text. I think there's like a nice. Yeah, we've got find and the selector. Yep. The message. And then
I think this returns a DOM node, right?
Yeah, I think it does. Let's try that. And then when you're whenever you're selecting text from the DOM, sometimes it ends up with a whole bunch of extra white space characters and things around it. There's some really nice QUnit assertion. I think it's like contains text or something that I like to use.
Yeah.
I can never spell QUnit on the first try. Contains text. I think it's something like that. QUnit. I want the list of things.
QUnit DOM helpers.
Yeah. That's
I think it's a separate package.
Oh, it is? Oh,
yeah.
Just always installed it, I guess. Yeah, okay. So I guess we will not do that. We'll just see what comes out on this test. All right, so I'm going to actually stop my regular Ember server here. We want to run these when the environment is set to test, especially because we're dealing with like some async timeout-y kind of things that we want to try. So I'm going to do serve. What this will do is it will open up that localhost 4200/tests route at our in the browser, so we can actually have a look at what's going on. I ended up I spent quite a while. Oh, right, yes. We had different.
I put it in the wrong text.
So I'm gonna swap that out.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time actually a couple weeks ago debugging something that was just that I wasn't running my tests in the right environment. I was doing Ember serve and then visiting this URL, and that will work for most things, but I've learned the hard way that it's not every single time. Okay.
I'm just gonna skip that integration test there.
Sure. And I'm gonna show the.
I'm gonna disable hinting.
Okay.
Which I think requires a restart of the test server.
Okay. You should be able to do that from the terminal yourself.
Oh yeah, neat.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Never VS Code live share with someone who you don't trust because they've got your whole. Yeah. Everything is there.
Sudo rmrf/.
No, don't do it. Okay.
Cool.
So we can actually, if we wanted to, we can click a link in here and see what's going on. So down here we have this little preview, right? And right now it's showing nothing because our test already ran. So the next thing I want to do here is just show kind of this pause test. Most of the time, when you're trying to debug what's going on in your testing suite, a pause test or a debugger is going to get you most of the way there. So if we pause that test, now we can actually see it's extremely tiny. There it is. We can actually see what would be rendered. There's the tiniest click here button. You can actually even interact with it, which is wild. Not a good idea to do that. It's going to mess up your test. But
it might be good to mention that there are like different use cases for both debugger and pauseTest.
Mm-hmm.
So like with debugger, you can interact with the scope around the breakpoint. So like you can inspect variables and call functions within scope and all that. But with this pauseTest, you can interact with the entire app. That includes like service lookups and inspecting the Ember data store, everything. So.
Yep, that's a good point. So I moved the pause test to down after where we're clicking the button. And so if you're having problems with the test, you could actually do something like that to inspect the test at each state. I think let's go ahead and try using the debugger as well to show how that looks here. And do you just usually use plain old debugger in this case, or you do something different?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'll just be like debugger.
Great. All right, let's save that. And I will open up my JavaScript terminal. Let's have a look.
Yeah, and when you refresh, it'll pull up the source panel for you.
Thank you. Yep. All right, cool. So we're at our debugging spot. And so, for example, we could do, I don't know, this.mess. What did I call it? Some message?
We don't have any local variables in scope yet.
Oh, okay.
But if you go to the sources tab.
Yeah.
And then just tap escape. Yeah, then we could.
Gotcha.
Like I think.
We could have a look at
like even if you typed text right now, nothing would happen because it hasn't been defined yet.
Gotcha.
But, like we could maybe interact with test help like _ test_helpers.find.
Oh yeah, that's cool. Let's try it.
Because I think these are just abstractions around native DOM APIs.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Now,
you could look up its attributes, its properties. What'd you use? Used inner text?
Yep.
There we go. That's pretty cool. And then if we step forward one, I think hopefully it won't take us into debugger internals. We could actually see what text got set to. So let's go ahead and try that.
Yeah, need to
go one more, maybe.
Yep.
All right, so let's see now.
I think if you collapse the sidebar, so right underneath the sources tab, there's that little like triangle thing.
Yes.
I mean, up top near
this one.
Not that triangle, but the one next to slowdowntest.js.
Oh, many triangles. This one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you scroll to the right there, it'll show you what text is. And
let's see if I can make this bigger. There we go. Yeah. That's nice. Yeah. Very nice.
Yeah. To me, like I think that's a huge benefit over this pauseTest, where the Chrome debug tools or any browser's debug tools will kind of just preview you all of the variables in scope.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. Cool. So I use the debugger outside of the testing environment quite a bit to navigate through this sort of stuff. I use pauseTest quite a bit. Sometimes I find that if a test is like kind of doing something funny, I'll write smaller tests that check different chunks of it, because even if I solve the bug and I fix this test, I have an opportunity to maybe save someone else more time in the future because they don't have to look through some giant test that's clicking on 12 different things to see what failed. Maybe they'll see that the giant test failed, sure, like it's still useful to have end-to-end tests, but then maybe they'll see smaller tests that give them useful clues about what could be done next. So that's pretty cool. All right, so let's see about getting this test to slow down. So writing code with timers in it in your code base is tricky business. A lot of times when people do it, they use a library called Ember concurrency. I've never tried to write a timeout in a test before, but we're gonna try it and see what happens.
Well, there's something I wanted to investigate too.
Sure.
And there's a link I'm gonna try to open if I know Mac command line tools. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Trust people you via SlideShare.
Yes.
Yeah. So Ryan Tablata made this, and I don't know if I don't think he's open to PR for it, but this might let us walk through a test, like kind of like debugger, how you can step next. He made a step test command that you just run in the debugger console. So I think this might be something worth exploring, and then maybe maybe a PR could come out of this too.
So he added a step test function, and then how do we use it? Is there a test for the step test? Not really. Testing has not been paused. Maybe we just call it and see what happens. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see. How old is this? Oh, it's not old at all. June 24th. So, ooh. All right, we could take this for a test drive. Let me think. Why would I do this? I need to clone this and then link it, and then we could give it a shot.
I was just thinking we link it directly from the package JSON.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Just link to do the GitHub linky thing.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Let's do it.
I don't know what branch this is, so maybe we just take the URL and delete the word commit.
Or we can even keep it. So you can you can reference specific commit hashes when you're using a link to GitHub. So to kind of back up, if someone hasn't done this before, in your package.json, you could list things that are coming from, an NPM repository. GitHub also recently launched their own repository things, but you can also use, for quite a long time, you've been able to just reference regular, normal GitHub links. There's like a certain syntax to it, isn't there?
Yeah, I think it's GitHub :user/repo hashtag getref.
Let's try that. Oh, it's test helpers, not.
It's a
dependency.
Yeah, it's a sub-dependency of EmberQUnit, but if we specify it ourselves, I think
it'll
win.
It. Okay, let's find out.
Living dangerously.
Yep. So this is something that we're kind of just exploring because we're curious about it. If you don't have kind of more intimate knowledge of what other people are building in the Ember ecosystem, you might do something like try to write some, set timeouts and things like that. And I think we'll probably get to that closer to the end, but I'm kind of excited to see where this takes us. So at the end, you can usually do like # and then main branch or my test branch or whatever, but you can also do the commit hash, which is really nice because that way you have some guarantees that this dependency isn't going to change like out from underneath your app. Yeah. So you were saying, what's the syntax here?
Just GitHub colon. Yeah. And then after helpers, delete from slash to right before the hash. So slash commit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's see what happens.
Yeah, and then we'll need to reinstall and all that.
This might take a little while because
look at it go.
We're streaming. Oh, that went fine. That was good. Okay.
Wait, what was that? Is this an error? Couldn't find match for what? Yeah, could go back to the web page.
I guess we can just link to their branch potentially.
I wonder why that didn't work.
Might have something slightly incorrect there. Where is that commit? It must be on a branch. Oh my, there's a bunch of them.
All dependable.
Oh, here we go. Step tests.
Yeah, cool. That's RT/step tests. Oh, look at that commit. It's 7167 something. We must have been looking at a rebased commit or something. Okay, yeah. Ryan's being sneaky.
Have a look.
Commits on us.
All right, paste. Let's try that. All right. And I'm using Yarn here out of habit. It's what we use at CardStack. It's what's used for Ember.js codebase. But if you don't have Yarn, you can do the same things I was just doing using npm, except you have to type install. So instead of I just typed Yarn, you type npm install, and this would do the same behavior. So I'm not using anything that's like special to Yarn when I'm doing this. Okay. Well, you want to see if you can import step test and see what happens? Yeah. Let me pull up that test here. We'll see. We'll figure out pretty quickly if it's actually pulling from that dependency or not.
I don't know if I need to like await it.
Yeah, I might as well.
Yeah.
Let's see. This will be exciting. I'm gonna restart. Do I have?
I already did.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's look.
Okay. All right. Maybe it somehow needs the console open.
I'm. Nothing happened.
Interesting.
Let's look at the source code here. If the context is set to step through, then this will call context pauseTest to allow step through debugging steps. Return wait until solved.
Oh, so we need to set context should step test.
Alrighty.
I hope.
And we'll see. We're digging pretty deep on the branch of someone who's written an experimental feature that doesn't have pull requests open yet, but it's kind of fun. It's a good exercise. Like I would say one of the main things I've learned in my new job most recently is just how powerful it is to go back and look at the source code of something. Because I had a tendency to like always look for the documentation first, and then I'd like try a bunch of things in the docs. They wouldn't work, and I'm like, how can I know how this works or what I'm doing. And then maybe I'd look at tests next, but like I've noticed a lot of my colleagues jump straight to the source code and take a peek there to see if they can figure out quickly what's going on. And like, it's pretty nice. All right, so what do we got? Should step test true? Sure.
Yep, I'm guessing context is this, but I know there's also this helper. So just guessing.
Sure.
I don't know if there's a difference between those.
All right, well, let's find out. It ran. Looks like it passed.
Can you open the console?
Yeah. Actually, I see what you mean by like, do you have to have the console open? I didn't really think that through. Let's try this again. Gonna refresh.
Nope.
Nope.
Okay. Well, actually,
here's context. And context should step test. Oh, it's going. Okay.
All right. I wonder if after it's paused, we can step.
Let's find out. Ooh.
Ooh, something broke.
Happened.
Excellent.
Promise rejected. Test helper step test is not a function. No.
Let's not call that.
Okay.
Okay. Deleted it. Saved.
Okay. Ooh. Okay, we're at regular pause tests right now.
Yeah. Can we step test here? I think it would just be step test. No, this.
New. What else is in scope here? Not much. Return pause test, then promise to resolve. Wait until it's settled. Context is get context. Step test. Yeah, I think probably what's happened here is I bet we are not loading. I bet we are not loading the fork version of Ember test helpers, because like when you're working with dependencies of dependencies, things get a little fiddly. I have done sneaky things which we could try here, like you can delete the package from your node modules, and then in the dependency that needs it, you can yarn link it. But in the case of Ember test helpers, like everything needs Ember test helpers, and so we might get ourselves into a situation where we're yarn linking everything all over, which is not what we want. But
I was just trying the resolutions key in package.json. See if that would do anything.
Okay. Let's see. Do we want to, let's restart. Did you restart the test server yet?
Yeah, it's starting up now.
Okay.
Okay, so it's paused.
All right.
See if we can type step test.
Oops.
All right.
Nope. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Good experiment. Huh. That's just kind of, kind of strange, right? Yeah. Well, so I guess let's go ahead and try the more classic, hacky, let's write some set timeouts. So I think, is there a wait there's a wait until that's not what I want.
You're wanting to wait for a particular amount of seconds?
Ooh, yeah, here. This is handy.
Yeah, but I think that'll continue if the condition is met before then.
Oh.
Yeah, so I think we might need to make our own arbitrarily wait helper.
Okay. Sounds good. So
yeah.
I always have to look up that timeout because I get it wrong every time. There's like a weird thing where if you set timeout, you have to give it the callback or something like that.
So what's the plan with set timeout?
So what I was thinking of doing was like making it wait for 2 seconds or something before doing a particular action.
Okay.
The tricksy thing is that I want it to wait like 2 seconds or something between each step, and I don't want to write like a bunch of nested callbacks. I hate nested callbacks.
Yeah.
And so how do we do that and write it in a way that's like not super gross? I don't know. Do you have any ideas?
So I guess the only thing I'm thinking of would have us place some waiters in between each of the steps of the test.
Mm-hmm.
Which that we could do using promise-based waiting.
Okay. That sounds good.
So we'd want an async function, maybe default timeout of 1 second, not a tenth of one. And then we just return, actually, it doesn't need to be async if we return a promise. Resolve. And then set timeout, resolve the timeout, perhaps.
Okay.
And then we just sprinkle this in everywhere.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
All right. I'm also going to go back to our little example components and go ahead and add a second button and something that will happen so that we can actually see like something got clicked, message number 1, something got clicked, message number 2, and like, really like we'll be able to see on this video that things are working in that way. So
also, I just had another idea, which maybe we could explore after this. So we could use a generator function to wrap the test.
Ooh. Okay.
I've never made a generator before, so this.
I've never made a generator before either.
Oh, cool.
This is exciting. It's like, yeah. So this is actually, it's one of the reasons why I really enjoy doing this sort of live streamy thing is because, and answering other people's questions as well, is because it kind of pushes me to try things that I wouldn't otherwise and like explore and learn on a time when, it's not like I'm debugging something to fix something against a deadline, but I can kind of just casually learn and explore in my own time in a way that doesn't really happen when I'm like, on a mission to fix a bug at work or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
So we'll say message. We'll say first message.
I should type the new way of doing that too.
Fix my linting problem.
Yeah, partial application.
Ooh. On click, call the function, click here, first message. Nice. And then does the function click here, does that have to be in an actions? It doesn't have to be an actions object, right?
No.
And just
well,
a regular function once you're
yeah.
class.
Yeah, it just needs to have the action decorator because that binds to this.
Gotcha. Okay, so I've got 2 buttons now, which will invariably break our tests because I called them test button 1, test button 2. So test button 1. Then we'll do the same thing. Test button 2. And at that point, some message in the end should be second message.
Oops.
No!
Ignore me. Just making this copy pastable for the sake of asserting the 2 messages.
Yes.
Typically when testing, I wouldn't jam so much into the same assertion because I like to debug like using debugger.
Yep.
So I would keep this as a variable. But...
Okie dokie. All right. So we'll save and let's see what happens in our test. I'm going to take, at this point, I can't hurt anything. Okay, why are my tests passing when we have some waiters?
I think they just should run slow, hopefully.
Okay, let's refresh. I don't want to hide my past test. Let's see.
Click. Oh yeah, look at that.
Look at that.
Those are second delays.
Beautiful. Very nice. Okay. So I think this is actually a pretty interesting example. So I'm going to make a commit before we move on to the next section if we want to try and make a generator.
Yeah.
So let me commit.
Pull up some documentation on that.
One of my favorite things about VS Code Live Share also is that it gives credit if you're pairing with somebody, so you can actually see, yep, that your GitHub email is there.
That's amazing.
So we're gonna say example of slow running acceptance test. Alrighty. 2 unsaved files. I don't know what we didn't save. I'm gonna save them all. Okay. Oh, apparently we missed that. Let me get I will get status. Okay. All right. So I made that commit to include that file. So you mentioned you're looking at some docs for generators. What docs are you looking at?
This one. This is my favorite ability. I can just open whatever.
I'm gonna use that next time I'm pairing with someone. Like, we know already that you have all of this control, that it's gonna freak them out. I can't wait. Okay.
It's awesome.
All right, so the generator object, let me zoom in here so other people can see what we're looking at. So we're looking at the Mozilla Docs function.
Yeah,
What?
yeah. So that's kind of the syntax. That's probably what we want our test to sort of look like.
What?
Just with doing yields instead of awaits.
Oh.
And
I have to read this closely. Hold on a second. I've never looked at generators before. I didn't know that this existed in JavaScript either. So let me just think about this for a minute.
Yeah, these are what power Ember concurrency.
Ooh.
Yeah, so Ember concurrency runs all things through a generator, so that if you cancel something or if some event cancels a task, it can just stop execution right there because it yields everything and it can just choose not to and abort. So kind of that example there, that infinite iterator. I'm kind of imagining this is what our test would look like, except those next calls would be abstracted away.
Abstracted away into what?
A function we will call slow test.
Okay.
Maybe. Yeah.
So were we still going to have to write slow test?
Yeah.
Like in a bunch of places?
No. I think if you switch back to the code.
Sure.
Let's see. Let's get rid of this. I'm kind of imagining it working somewhat like this, where we kind of just wrap the test helper. And then some generator function here. And this is the part that I'm fuzzy on, like getting the stuff in here to yield. Because I know I want the test to look like this.
Wow. Oh, this is interesting.
And hopefully I can spell yield right 3 times. Okay. So now we just gotta figure out how to define this thing. Yeah, so if any future watchers are familiar with Ember concurrency, this should look familiar if I could type. Oh my. Yeah.
It's a well-known fact that when you're live streaming or pairing, that one's typing abilities become reduced by 80%.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Phenomenon. If someone managed to type perfectly on a live stream, I'd be like, cool, you're a robot. I don't trust you now. I would not trust you with my live share, Preston, if you didn't make some typos. Okay, so this is interesting. This is do we try it now?
Well,
Do this need more?
I don't know what'll happen. I mean, okay, so I can hypothesize.
Okay.
So because we have this generator function here and a yield here, but slow test isn't calling next. It isn't iterating until the next time it hits a yield. It's just gonna hit here and then wait. So if we run our tests, I assume it'll look like the page is blank.
Okay. Well, I guess we could at least start by testing the hypothesis and see if this runs at all. So let me save. Huh. Mm. Oh.
Expected at least one assertion, but none were run. Okay. Yep.
Yep, as in, yep, that makes sense, or yep, as in, yep, that didn't work.
Well, the body of the function didn't run because it yielded and stopped, and then gave control back to the calling context, I think.
Oh, so nothing's calling next.
Right.
That's the problem.
So I wonder if we just let's see. We need a. I want to know what this is. Like, is this the right testing context? Because if it is, then I want to define a, like, this.step. And then this could call generator function.next. Which, in order to do that, I feel like we need to actually maybe. So we need to get QUnit to recognize that we are in a test. So at some point, test needs to be wrapped. And console logging this here because I am not certain what happens to this through these things. So your test is going to get assert generator function. Well,
so here's a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned Ember concurrency. Can one use Ember concurrency directly in a test? That's way off the edge of the map.
Maybe. I think it'd be possible in a rendering test.
Yeah.
Because it uses like .get and .set from the Ember object model.
That may be interesting to try out.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So .step equals.
I wrote a blog post once about Ember concurrency. I think everyone has to go through a phase with Ember concurrency where they're so excited about Ember concurrency and they try to tell their friends, and nobody understands why it's important until like then they themselves have needed it and tried it, and it just rotates who is excited about Ember concurrency and who isn't. Everyone else is just like, eh. I don't get why it's so exciting. I wrote a whole blog article about it. I published my blog article, and I was like, this is the one that's going to get people to understand why Ember concurrency is important, and like 5 people read it. I was very disappointed. It was also very hard to write. This is all about async. Writing about async is hard. Okay.
Truth.
Valid. All right. There's some things happening here. Let's see.
Yeah, okay. So what I'm doing now is trying to convince the QUnit test runner that I want to wait so I can interact with the console. And the only way I know how to do that is with pauseTest.
Yep.
And if I call this.step, I want to call generator next and then pauseTest again.
Okay.
Maybe. Let's
try
see
it.
what happens. All right.
Let me have a look over here. Let's see what's going on. Testing is paused.
All right, let's try executing step as calling it.
What is it? Is it how do? What am I calling?
Well, I defined it on this.
This.step?
I might need to define it on the window. Hang on.
Yeah, I don't think I have it here. You want window.step.
You should just be able to do regular without the window now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh. All right, again?
Yeah. Oh no. So you know what's freaky is nothing should ever work the first time you try it.
Oh, you've burned all your karma. Something simple is not gonna work for you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Better do no coding, let it refresh, wait till Monday.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah, good
look
thing
at
it's the
that.
weekend.
Look at this.
Wow.
Look at this.
Nice.
That's exciting.
Woo.
Am I in an infinite loop of steps now?
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. We have something to fix.
Yay!
Okay, how do we know when a generator's done?
That's a good question. Maybe you would set, maybe you write a little function here at the end, and if what you yielded is something or other, maybe there's a way to tell it to stop. What if it never stops?
So, I guess, like the
Oh,
way...
return here.
Oh, what's that do? Click that.
Returns the given value and finishes the generator. All right, so I'll do, what do I actually, lost my window. What's your generator called? Do I call the generator itself?
Yeah, generator.return.
If you called it generator?
Yeah, but it's a local variable.
Oh, no.
Oh, I know. I'll define a method on the window called finish.
Okay.
Just like in debugging tools.
This is exciting. Okay.
Yeah. Man. Okay. See what happens.
Okay, so I'm gonna next. Oops. Wait, what'd you call it? Step.
Yep. Should alias it.
Step. Okay, and then I'll do finish.
Yeah. Oh. QUnit doesn't know it's finished. Okay, so that means after generator return, it needs to call resume test.
Oh,
Okay, and then I'm gonna alias that to next as well.
Step. Finish.
Oh no.
Nope.
Hmm.
Well, what I will say is this. Firstly, I think this is the kind of code that like you don't actually want to leave it in your tests. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
this is the sort of thing where, okay, you don't actually want your tests to be able to resume. You kind of want them to infinitely hang because you need to know to go back and clean this stuff up. Because I can tell you that I would be like confused to find like if someone I was working with had like add a whole bunch of slowdowns into my test and then left them there. Whereas
Yeah.
if you don't have a way to actually finish off the test, it hangs forever. You know something's wrong, you go back and fix it. So I'm gonna see this as a feature, not a bug, and
Awesome.
that'll be good. That was pretty cool though. Today I learned
Ooh.
generators.
Yeah, that worked out pretty well.
Cool. So let's have a look-see here over the question again. I don't usually type out the question or the answer during these live streams because nobody wants to watch someone else typing at 20% of their usual typing abilities. So, but I like to discuss kind of how we would answer this. So I like for the purposes of Stack Overflow, I really like the promise example because I think it's like somewhat more common knowledge than a generator, but since we
Yeah.
did do the work of the generator, I might put the generator too. That's like, if you're feeling fancy, you could even
Yeah.
use a generator to do this. You could write it as a test helper, and like save it there for other people. And I think it might also be useful for us in an answer like this to link this person to an example of someone using uh, the like debugger for an Ember, like from an Ember test environment. I feel that that video has to exist somewhere. So I would search YouTube to see if I can find it, just because I find that like, I went for the better part of a year when I was first learning to code without knowing that I could do such awesome things with the browser debugger. And so, like, I think that we should also, as much as we can, sort of spread that knowledge that, like, you can generally reach for these really helpful generalized JavaScript tools. You don't even necessarily need the Ember approach for something in order to have some good success with debugging. So, yeah, that could be pretty cool.
Yeah,
Do you have, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's pretty empowering to like once you realize that most of front end development is using like the the platform and not so much framework specific stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
So skills are very transferable.
sure thing. All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching this. If you're coming to Ember Camp, it is coming up in September. I think it's September 16th. We'll be presenting there, taking a little bit of live audience participation as well. And we'll probably be doing, gonna try to maybe set that up as a live stream too. So stay tuned for other news. All right. Thanks.